Page 13, Egmont Overture, or a theme from it. This is a beautiful piece. We've done this in orchestra a few times. It's wonderful. I encourage you to go listen to the orchestra play this. To give you an idea of the overall mood of the piece, let's take a look here. 3/4 times, got one sharp. Is it in G major or E minor? Because it could be either one. Well, let's look at the end of the piece. We're ending here. That's an E minor chord. I think this is probably an E minor. Don't take both hands at the same time here because it's kind of important. Because this first part here, it's all melody. You got to connect it. Keep the chord soft. Your fingering is fine. It's now here, keep the left hand soft. Here, this is not a real fast piece. It says fast, but it's not that fast. If you want to use different fingers on it, on the repeated, it's a good idea. Not necessary in this piece, but go for it. Top of page 14. At the end of the first line, that fifth finger is kind of important because it sets you up to come down here. Now, second line, let's look at this. They're fingering in the right hand. You're going to have third finger on that, and they want you to come down to 2. And 1, 4, 5, 1. Ugh. I find that a little convoluted. I'm going to make a suggestion fingering for the second line. Fifth finger on the first note. The end of the first line, you have that here. And then do a 2, 3, 4. And then a 2, 3, and a 3 here. And then a 2, and a 3, and then a 1. And just repeat this fingering because it keeps going. So that's the fingering I recommend. You have to take a pencil and write it in. It's just we're not crossing over the thumb at all. Everything falls in line. We're just crawling around like a spider. So very slowly. Second line, start fifth finger and then reach down. Second, 2, and then 5 is fine. And then reach down is 2, 3, 3, and then a 2. So we had these F sharps in a row. I just used different fingers. Big deal. And a 3, and then a 1. And that takes us back to our original theme. That thing. You get the same thing over on page 15, third line. At the end of the second line, you're here. And I recommend on the third line for the 8th notes is 2, 3, 4. You don't need to cross the thumb. And then thumb, and 4, 3. Again, I'm not crossing over the thumb or so it's third measure is 4, 3. And then come down, it's 2, 3. And then 2, 3, 5. And then I like that fingering better. You just take a pencil and write it in. You may have to watch the video this part more than once at least to get the fingering. The idea is I'm just not crossing over the thumb so much like they're doing. Now, there's not a lot of articulation going here. You got phrasing. So let's go ahead and do the dynamics here. Again, you need to get to know it first. But here, medium soft, and that's just this melody going down. Anything else, keep very soft. And I recommend, if you can, feel these natural accents at the beginning of each of these measures. We want to feel that. Feel that. to feel all these natural accents. And you're staying in the moderately soft range. It's kind of a mysterious thing right now. So we're saving up all the other stuff for later. So just keep this kind of down. And at the bottom, now we're starting to build up. That's the right hand. Keep the left hand soft. Top of page 14. Now here, come down at the end of the line to medium soft, mysterious. It's like a spring. You're compressing a spring. There's a lot of tension here and it hasn't been released yet. Second line. You're kind of releasing it. You can come up a little bit, but don't get too loud here. You're releasing the spring a little bit. So you crescendo there in the third line, and then come back down. Now at the end. There. You release the spring finally at the end. There's a lot of tension going up throughout this whole thing, and the actual overture feels this. And you just know you're headed somewhere, and it's not being released. The tension is there, and there's the excitement. And then finally at the end, it just, you've had enough. And those are accented, those last two notes, so separate them just a little bit. Now there's no pedaling marked in this piece, and you can do it fine without, but I'd like to give you maybe a couple suggestions with pedal. If you were my student in front of me, I could take a pencil and I could mark in the pedaling for you. We can't do that here, so I'll describe here what you might try. Don't pedal the whole thing through. It just gets mushy, so don't. First you're learning it without pedal. So, and then here at the beginning of this, you can sort of pedal it with the chord in the left hand here. Push the notes down and then pedal. And then the next measure, lift the pedal. You don't want to pedal on any of that. So the first line or so is the same thing in the second line. See, I'm just pedaling it here. Lifting it up somewhere in that third measure before the last beat. Now here in the third line you can pedal. A typical waltz pedaling is where it's the first beat or two of the measure, but don't pedal the last beat. Keep in mind this is legato with the hands, so still. Doing is kind of reinforcing the natural accent. And when you get to this part, don't pedal that. So make sure you can pedal the first part, but lift up. So just it's like one first beat there. At the top of page 14, it's like just the first beat. Keep in mind the left hand is all legato. Keep it connected with the hands, you know. So the second line, same thing, just the first beat. But the left hand's legato. You get down to the end of the page on 14, the last measure. Lift it up so that B's by itself. And at the top of page 15 on these repeated notes, this is the third measure of the first line. You can connect those with pedal. Just those two notes, just to connect them. That's the only reason we're using pedal, just to connect them. So that first line on page 15. Second line, third measure, same thing. You can connect those with pedal. Just don't catch the first beat. So I don't want both of those, just one. and then lift up. Back to the first beat again, but keep the left hand legato. And the third major, third line, you can pretty much pedal that measure. Change it, and then. But at the end, pedal the first two beats, and that's it. Don't pedal in. If you're going to pedal these, pedal with the pedal goes down and up with the hands. So, and all we're doing there is releasing the overtones on these. It sounds different then. You get a bigger sound when you use the pedal, but we don't want to connect them. We want to separate them. So the first two beats of the next to the last major, those are connected. And then here, lift the pedal up with the hands. That's my suggestion on the pedal. Just don't pedal everything like that. Just it'll blur it all up.